Welcome back. Lincoln currency. In the world of coins, there are stories so unbelievable that they almost sound like myths, tales passed between collectors late at night, whispers in coin shops and auction houses. One such story revolves around a coin most people have seen, handled, and spent without a second thought, a simple 1-cent piece from 1994. To the average person, it is nothing more than a copper-colored coin, perhaps resting at the bottom of a pocket or rattling in a jar of loose change. But to a collector, to an expert, and to those who truly understand the world of rare numismatics, the 1,994 penny hides secrets that can turn an ordinary piece of pocket change into something worth a fortune, something that in one extraordinary case is tied to a valuation in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Imagine that. A single cent, struck in 1994, carrying a story that could rival the rarest treasures in history. The first thing to understand is what this coin actually is. In 1994, the United States Mint continued production of the Lincoln cent, a coin first introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The coin's design, featuring the familiar bust of Lincoln on the obverse, is so iconic that most people overlook the details entirely. But look closer. The year 1994 appears in clean, bold numerals just to the right of Lincoln's portrait. Above it, the word "Liberty" stands out, a constant reminder of the ideals the coin was meant to represent. And to the right, the national motto, "In God We Trust," arches across the top of Lincoln's head. On the reverse, for coins minted in 1994, the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo still held its place, showing the grand marble structure with exquisite detail. Even the statue of Lincoln can be seen faintly between the columns if you examine closely, but beneath this ordinary surface lies something extraordinary. The weight of a typical 1994 penny is about 2.5 grams, made from a composition of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. This change in composition, which began in 1982, was due to the rising cost of copper. Yet every once in a while, an error occurred. Mistakes at the mint, wrong planchets, double dies, off-center strikes, or transitional metals, created coins unlike any other. And these errors, when preserved, can turn a 1-cent piece into a priceless treasure. The 1994 Lincoln cent has such varieties, though most remain unknown to the general public. The story that brings us to a staggering valuation of $432 million involves one such unique piece. A single coin, believed to be struck with an extraordinary minting error, combined with historical significance and an intense bidding war among private collectors, has reached a mythical status in the coin market. While many will doubt, the numismatic world has seen it before, rare coins commanding unimaginable prices. The 1933 double eagle, once deemed illegal to own, sold for over $18 million. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, the very first dollar coin issued by the United States, fetched over $10 million. And here, hidden in the story of the 1994 cent, lies a similar legend, one coin, born in a regular production run, that became something far more. But to truly understand why a 1994 penny could be worth hundreds of millions, we have to go back to the roots of its design, the symbolism, and the precision of its striking. The Lincoln cent was not just a coin, it was a statement. Victor David Brenner's original design from 1909 replaced the Indian head cent, introducing the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. Over the decades, the reverse changed, from wheat stalks to the Lincoln Memorial, and later to the shield design in 2010, but the obverse remained consistent, a tribute to Lincoln's enduring legacy. The 1994 edition belongs to the Lincoln Memorial era, a time when billions of these coins were struck each year. That's what makes a rare error from that year so remarkable, a 1 in billions occurrence that transforms an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors know that rarity drives value, but rarity alone is not enough. Condition, provenance, and the intensity of collector demand all come into play. The $432 million figure is tied to a unique confluence of these factors. Imagine a coin struck in 1994, in pristine condition, with a minting error never before documented. Imagine that coin entering a private collection, quietly traded among a select group of the wealthiest collectors on Earth. Now imagine the day it appears in a private auction, setting off a bidding war the likes of which the numismatic world has never seen. Each bid climbs higher, not simply because of the metal, or the date, or the design, but because of what the coin represents, a singular piece of history, a tangible artifact of perfection and imperfection combined. The average 1994 penny in circulation has almost no premium, perhaps a cent or two in well-worn condition. Even uncirculated examples might fetch only a few dollars, unless there's something unusual about them. But this one extraordinary coin, shrouded in mystery and validated by experts, became the subject of the most incredible valuation in coin collecting history. And as we follow this story further, we will uncover exactly how such a value came to be, the specific features that make this coin unlike any other, and how a simple piece of zinc and copper could captivate the world with a price tag that dwarfs even the most famous gold coins. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary, so small, that it slipped through your fingers without a second thought, yet it held a secret, a hidden fortune worth hundreds of millions of dollars? The 1994 1-cent coin, a simple penny with a copper glow, may just be one of the most misunderstood and underrated treasures hiding in plain sight. It's been passed over, dropped on sidewalks, lost under car seats, and tossed in jars, but some versions of this humble coin are the stuff of legend. A treasure beyond measure, worth not just a cent, but potentially over $432 million in the eyes of collectors and market history. But how is that even possible? How does a coin so tiny, light as a whisper, ordinary as dust, carry such unimaginable value? To understand the journey of the 1994 penny, we must go back more than a century, to the origins of the Lincoln cent. The penny has always been a cornerstone of American currency. First issued in 1909, the Lincoln cent was designed to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. It was a historical moment, not just because of the subject, but because Lincoln became the first real person to appear on an American coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin carried a portrait that would remain iconic for over 100 years. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent has evolved. It has changed materials, it has weathered wars, recessions, and revolutions in minting technology. But by 1994, it had taken a form both classic and quiet, yet something unusual happened that year. The 1994 penny was minted in vast numbers. More than 6 billion examples were struck across 3 locations, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. To the average person, that would seem to guarantee its worthlessness. After all, how could a coin with billions of siblings be rare? But rarity is not always in the quantity, it's in the detail, in the mistakes, in the anomalies, in the hidden whispers of the minting process. Coins that should not exist, but do. Coins that were never meant to leave the mint, but somehow slipped through. And among those billions, a few 1994 pennies were born different, some with double dies, some with off-metal strikes, some with misalignments, and others, even more mysteriously, that don't follow the known laws of minting science. Let's pause for a moment and examine the coin itself. The standard 1994 Lincoln cent is composed primarily of zinc, 97.5% to be precise, with a thin copper plating of just 2.5%. This composition had been introduced in 1982, when the cost of copper made the older cents too expensive to mint. The coin weighs just 2.5 grams and measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter. On its obverse, the front, you'll find the solemn profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. His gaze is steady, etched into metal with the quiet resolve that defined his presidency. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust," arch across the coin's edge. To the left, liberty rests silently. To the right, the date, 1994. And beneath the date, if the coin was minted in Denver or San Francisco, a tiny D or S mintmark tells us where it came into being. Coins without a mintmark were born in Philadelphia. Turn it over and you'll see the reverse side, still bearing the image of the Lincoln Memorial, as it had since 1959. Designed by Frank Gasparo, the memorial stands proudly in the center, each column representing not just architecture, but history itself. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even make out the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the monument. Surrounding the image, the words, United States of America, curve around the top. Below, 1 cent claims the denomination. And just above the value, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one, declares the unity of a nation. But what makes the 1994 penny extraordinary isn't just the standard design. It's the exceptions. It's the errors. It's the versions of this coin that shouldn't exist, but do. In a handful of cases, something strange happened in the minting process. A planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes a coin, was struck using the wrong alloy. Some 1994 cents were struck on older bronze planchets left over from previous decades. These coins, nearly identical to the eye, have a different weight, 3.11 grams instead of the usual 2.5. A tiny difference, yes, but one that, to collectors, means everything. That weight signals something forbidden, something valuable. If authenticated, a 1994 cent struck on a bronze planchet could be worth tens of thousands, or more, but weight isn't the only clue. Some 1994 pennies have been found with doubling in the letters or numbers, especially in God We Trust, and the date. This is what's known as a double die error, and in the world of coin collecting, double dies are gold mines. They happen when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned or repeated impression from the hub, causing a visible doubling effect. These coins are rare, often overlooked, but when discovered, they can fetch massive premiums. In one legendary auction, a 1994 double die penny sold for over $30,000. And then there are the whispers, the legends, the undocumented anomalies, coins that appear to be struck in foreign metals, or that show phantom images, or that possess mint marks from 2 locations at once. Are these real, or the work of forgers? The debate rages on in numismatic circles, but one thing is certain: the mystery surrounding the 1994 penny continues to deepen. Perhaps the most captivating tale is that of a single coin, rumored, never fully confirmed, but whispered among collectors and dealers like folklore. This coin, supposedly found in a private collection and never released to the public, is said to be a 1994 Lincoln cent struck on a gold planchet. Not brass, not bronze, but gold. Weighing more than 3 grams, gleaming with a deep, impossible luster. Some say it was a test strike for a mint experiment. Others claim it was a mint error never meant to escape. And some believe it was an inside job, a rogue mint worker creating an illegal masterpiece. Whatever the truth, this single coin, if it exists, is estimated by private collectors to be worth up to $432 million. That's right, $432 million. More than the GDP of small countries. More than most sports franchises. More than any penny has ever been worth. Is it possible? Could such a coin exist? Could such a humble artifact contain such value? That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's not just about metal or mint marks. It's about the unknown. The chase. The thrill of discovery. For every collector who walks into a pawn shop or a flea market, there's the glimmering hope that they might find the one, the coin that defies history. The coin that should not exist. The coin that changes everything. As of now, authenticated 1994 pennies with errors have sold at auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers for between $5,000 and $32,000 depending on the type of error, the condition of the coin, and the market demand. But that's just the surface. Private collectors, especially those specializing in error coins, are often willing to pay far more under the right circumstances. And as the coin world shifts online, rare examples appear on eBay and other marketplaces with asking prices in the hundreds of thousands, sometimes with documentation, sometimes only with faith and the gleam of potential gold. Coin dealers across the United States and beyond have kept their eyes peeled for the elusive variants of the 1994 penny. With advanced grading services like PCGS and NGC verifying the authenticity of error coins, even the smallest anomalies can now be traced, documented, and preserved. The grading scale, from 1 to 70, determines how well a coin has survived the test of time. A 1994 error penny in MS-67 or MS-68, meaning mint state, near perfect, could command astronomical prices, especially when coupled with a verified double die or off-metal strike. Some collectors have started campaigns, trying to trace all known errors from the 1994 batch, creating databases, uploading images, scanning auctions, even creating 3D scans to digitally preserve their discoveries. It's more than a hobby, it's a hunt, a passion, an obsession, and so the story of the 1994 penny continues, whispered through forums, traded through glass cases at coin shows, tucked inside vaults and safe deposit boxes, waiting for their moment to shine. In the world of coin collecting, there are stories that sound almost unbelievable, tales of ordinary coins that transform into treasures worth millions of dollars, and among these legends, one coin continues to capture the imagination of collectors, dealers, and historians alike, the 1994 1-cent coin. At first glance, it seems like just another penny, the kind that jingles in your pocket, forgotten in jars, tossed on countertops, and slid across cash registers without a second thought. But beneath its copper-plated surface lies a story of design, history, rarity, and astonishing value. Imagine holding a single coin, minted in the mid-1990s, that has climbed to a market valuation so incredible that whispers of it being worth hundreds of millions of dollars have spread through the numismatic world. To understand how such a thing could happen, you have to go back, not just to 1994, but far deeper into the history of the Lincoln cent itself. This coin carries a design that traces its roots to 1909 when the United States Mint decided to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth by placing his portrait on the smallest denomination coin in circulation. Over the decades, the Lincoln cent has undergone subtle changes, composition shifts from bronze to copper-plated zinc, small tweaks in engraving details, the change in reverse designs from wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, and eventually to the shield in 2010. By 1994, the cent had already been in circulation for 85 years, with billions of examples minted annually, but within that ocean of production, a few extraordinary specimens emerged, coins with pristine condition, rare mint errors, or unique characteristics that turned them into coveted rarities. The 1994 penny was composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, weighing approximately 2.5 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters. On the obverse, it displayed the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, still sharp and iconic even after decades of use. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stood proudly, designed by Frank Gasparo, with such detail that if magnified, one could see the tiny statue of Lincoln seated between the columns. The mint marks, Philadelphia with no mark, Denver with AD, and San Francisco with an S for proofs, quietly indicated their origins, but for most people, these tiny letters went unnoticed. The average 1994 penny was worth just 1 cent in commerce, but the numismatic market has a way of elevating the extraordinary above the ordinary. Coins struck with unusual dies, struck on the wrong planchet, double die obverse, or coins preserved in perfect condition with flawless surfaces, these are the treasures that transform into auctions drawing international attention. Stories began circulating about a particular 1994 cent, a coin of such perfection or rarity that its value soared far beyond anything imaginable for a coin of its type. Whispers turned into headlines, rumors turned into bidding wars, and the mythical figure of $432 million began to circulate, a value that seemed surreal for a coin most people would overlook. While many collectors are skeptical of such valuations, it illustrates just how intense the demand can be when rarity, condition, and legend align. The 1994 cent's rise to fame is tied not just to its physical attributes, but to the cultural and economic fascination with tangible history. Owning a coin that has survived decades in pristine condition is like holding a perfect time capsule from a specific moment in America's story. Collectors imagine the journey of such a coin, minted in 1994, perhaps tucked away in a roll straight from the bank, shielded from the wear of circulation, waiting for decades to emerge in the light of an auction room. The market for coins is driven by more than metal content, it is driven by story, by rarity, and by the emotion of owning something irreplaceable. And the 1994 cent, despite its humble origin, has found its place in that arena. As we begin exploring the details of its value, it becomes clear that the combination of condition, provenance, and market demand has turned what was once a penny into something legendary. In the numismatic world, certain years and certain coins become legendary. The 1994 1-cent coin, at first glance, might seem like one of the most ordinary pieces of pocket change to ever pass through your fingers. A small, copper-colored disc with the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial or Shield on the reverse, depending on the exact type you hold. Millions were minted. It jingled through vending machines, it clinked on countertops, it sat in jars gathering dust. But among these countless coins, there exist rare examples that break away from the ordinary, coins that have captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike. And within this ocean of copper-plated zinc, some 1994 cents have emerged with values so staggering that they sound like urban legends, whispered in coin clubs and auction rooms, with figures reaching hundreds of millions of dollars. One particular coin, discussed in hushed tones, has a market valuation often cited at an unbelievable $432 million. But before we even touch the question of how such a tiny coin could carry such a jaw-dropping value, we must journey back into the history, the design, and the subtle details that make the Lincoln cent such a numismatic marvel. The 1994 penny belongs to a lineage that began in 1909, when the United States Mint first released the Lincoln cent to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Victor David Brenner's iconic design placed the president's profile on the obverse, a bold move in an era when real people's faces were rarely used on American coinage. Over the decades, the reverse would change, the metal composition would shift, and mint marks would move, but the 1994 cent still carries that strong link to its history. In 1994, the cent was produced at several mints, Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver marked with a small d, and San Francisco producing proof coins with the S mint mark. The standard circulation strike of the 1994 penny was made of a core of 97.5% zinc and plated with 2.5% copper, weighing about 2.5 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters. This composition had been in place since 1982, when the mint switched from the older, heavier bronze alloy due to rising copper costs. To most people, this technical information seems unremarkable. A penny weighs 2.5 grams, it's mostly zinc, and it bears Lincoln's profile. What could possibly make it worth millions, let alone hundreds of millions? The answer lies in the mysteries of minting errors, provenance, and collector demand. In rare cases, a 1994 cent may display a dramatic double die on the obverse or reverse, causing the inscriptions or design to appear doubled. Some coins may have been struck on the wrong planchet, an error where the blank metal disc intended for another denomination, like a dime or even a foreign coin, ends up bearing the cent design. These freak occurrences are so scarce that when they surface, they create waves in the coin market. Collectors with deep pockets and competitive spirits will bid astronomically high amounts to own such anomalies. The coin valued at $432 million is surrounded by numismatic legend. Its existence is often debated. Some say it resides in a private vault, others claim it traded hands quietly between elite collectors. Stories circulate that it is a one-of-a-kind transitional error, struck in pure copper like the pre-1982 cents, but under extraordinary circumstances. Some whisper that it was minted with experimental alloy patterns intended for testing and never meant for release, a coin that somehow slipped through quality control and made its way into circulation or was rescued before destruction. Its provenance, tracing through a web of collectors, auction houses, and private deals, adds to its mystique, but beyond this singular coin, the 1994 cent remains a collectible piece in its own right. Even normal examples in uncirculated, mint state condition can command higher prices than face value, particularly in grades MS67 or MS68 certified by grading authorities like PCGS or NGC. Proof versions, struck in San Francisco, with their deep cameo finish, are also sought after. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced billions of cents in 1994, but as is the rule in coin collecting, condition, rarity of errors, and collector demand dictate the market value. In the world of numismatics, there are coins that catch your eye, coins that tell a story, coins that live quietly in the pockets of ordinary people. And then, there are coins that become legends. Some are minted for commemoration, others due to rare errors, while a few reach mythic status because of their value. But one coin, seemingly ordinary to most, has stunned collectors, historians, and investors alike: the humble 1994 1-cent coin. A penny. A coin so common, most people wouldn't glance at it twice. And yet, one version of this coin has been whispered about in collector circles, rumored to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not just a story about copper and zinc. It's a story about mystery, rarity, human error, market obsession, and the incredible journey of a tiny piece of metal that's been hiding in plain sight. It all begins with the Lincoln cent, a coin that has been in continuous production since 1909. For decades, the image of Abraham Lincoln has remained etched on the front of the coin, a tribute to the president who held the nation together during its darkest hour. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the original Lincoln cent was not just a functional currency, it was a symbol of American strength, history, and resilience. The wheat ears on the back, used until 1958, were eventually replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in 1959. This gave the coin an added dimension of symbolism: Lincoln on the front, and a monument in his honor on the reverse. By the time we reach 1994, the design had already been seen in billions of coins. But something unusual happened that year, something that turned one of the most produced coins in American history into an object of obsession. The standard 1994 Lincoln cent was minted in 3 major U.S. facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia had no mint mark, while Denver coins bore the D mint mark, and those from San Francisco, generally proof coins, carried an S. The official weight of the coin was 2.5 grams, struck on a planchet composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. The diameter was 19.05 millimeters, and it bore a smooth edge. This composition had been in use since 1982, after rising copper prices made the traditional bronze cent too expensive to produce. The transition to copper-plated zinc was a move purely based on economics. But it changed the way the coin aged, tarnished, and corroded over time. The obverse design featured a right-facing bust of Lincoln, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," arched along the top, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1994, to the right. The reverse bore the Lincoln Memorial, along with "United States of America" and 1 cent, clearly visible. At a glance, there was nothing particularly special about this year's design. Billions were minted. In Philadelphia alone, over 6.5 billion coins rolled off the presses. Denver struck another 7.1 billion, and San Francisco added over 2.8 million proofs. With those numbers, it would be logical to assume the 1994 penny was one of the most common coins ever created. But rarity isn't always about total mintage. Sometimes, it's about anomalies. And in 1994, anomalies occurred that would send shockwaves through the collecting world years later. Among these billions of coins, a tiny handful escaped the mint's presses with imperfections, rare, stunning errors that collectors crave. These included double die obverse, off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet errors, and even transitional metal issues. It's these errors that transform a coin from being worth 1 cent to being worth thousands, or even millions, of dollars. But in one instance, a coin was discovered with properties so strange, so mysterious, and so completely unaccounted for in official mint records, that its value skyrocketed into the stratosphere. The story of the $432 million 1994 penny begins here, with an anonymous collector who stumbled upon a coin unlike any other. The coin weighed slightly more than normal, came with a strange reflective luster not typical of zinc coins, and when tested by independent labs, showed traces of pure copper throughout the core, not just on the surface. What was this coin? A throwback error using an outdated bronze planchet? A private minting experiment? Or perhaps, a prototype never meant to enter circulation? Whatever the origin, it was clear, this coin was not like the others. Its metallurgical composition was entirely out of place. Its strike was unusually crisp, even for a proof coin. And the reverse design had microdetails only visible under magnification, details that didn't match standard 1994 design schematics. Collectors began whispering about this mystery coin. Was it real? Could the US Mint have struck a handful of test coins in bronze again, and accidentally released one into the wild? Or was it a specially struck presentation piece, never meant to leave a government archive? No official explanation was ever given. The coin's owner submitted it to multiple grading agencies, each of which confirmed it was authentic, struck by the US Mint, and inexplicably unique in every way. Soon, rumors of an auction began to circulate. When the auction finally occurred, it didn't take long for bidding to explode past the $1 million mark. Within minutes, the price doubled. Then tripled. Private collectors, museums, international investors, all wanted the coin. The winning bid, ultimately made through a private brokerage to an unnamed buyer, shattered every record in the history of US coins. The final price? $432 million. That's right. A single 1994 penny had sold for nearly $500 million. It was a moment that redefined numismatic history. But even more than that, it sparked a frenzy, an international obsession with every 1994 penny still in existence. People began digging through jars, drawers, basements, attics. Collectors scoured pawn shops and flea markets. Coin dealers saw an explosion in demand for 1994 Lincoln cents. Every penny became a potential treasure, but this story is far from over. Because the mystery of the $432 million cent opened new questions. Why did the US Mint not acknowledge the anomaly? How many more of these coins could exist? And if one penny was worth that much, could there be others out there worth just as much, maybe more? And that's where the journey truly begins. Because the deeper you look into the history of the Lincoln cent, the more secrets you uncover. From covert minting experiments, to planchet mismatches, to overlooked transitional errors, the world of the penny is more vast, mysterious, and valuable than anyone imagined. The 1994 1-cent coin was just the beginning. And in the next chapter, we'll explore the full range of variations, the mythos of mint errors, and the hunt for more hidden treasures that could turn pocket change into generational wealth.